It's 10 o'clock. It's Thursday morning. It's time for Tom and Shane, No Business in Politics. And, well, we got Shane, how did we live without credit cards? Most of the people watching or listening to us have never lived without credit cards. I'm one of the few. You probably are too. But I remember when there were no credit cards.
That's right. And, if you wanted a new stereo or TV, there was a bank. You had to go down and get a small loan, and the paperwork alone would
Mhm.
drive them crazy. But it was their job to make small loans until credit cards came along. The staggering reality was in the 21st century, in the first world, you can't go do anything without a credit card. You can't go shopping. You can't go on a holiday. You can't pay bills. So it becomes a remarkable need for the masses. The numbers are staggering. I mean, in 2000, there was about 1.2 billion credit cards around the world. In 2007, there were 1.5. Of course, in
Mhm.
2010, with the big crash, it dropped to about 1 billion. I'm sorry, did I say a million? Billion. And
Mhm.
then it started climbing the wall again, 2013, 1.2 billion. Then it dropped off in 15 to just under 1.1 billion, leveled off, and 2018 climbed back up to about 1.2 billion, and or 1.2, yeah, 1.25 billion now in 23. So it's had its up and down numbers,
Mhm.
and yet it's when you know uh, there's four primary credit cards as we know: Visa, Mastercard, American Express, and of
Mhm.
all things, Discovery.
Yeah.
But
Mhm.
it's a necessity of the
Mhm.
modern age, especially like for travel. I mean, you can't get a hotel room, you can't fly. And funny enough, though, you can't use it as an ID. I love
Yeah, I
that.
know. Yeah, that doesn't work. Well, the big deal is credit card debt, 1.18 trillion, Shane. That's how much money people owe. That's just in the US. Who knows what the world credit card is? Probably 5 trillion, I guess, if you count everybody worldwide in there. But yeah, it's quite a deal. First credit
Yes,
card,
it's pretty staggering.
first credit card was Diners back in 1950.
That's right.
Was the first one to come out, and then uh, the first bank cards, ATM cards, were issued by Barclays in London in '67, and by a chemical bank in Long Island in 1969. So they've been around for a while. I remember getting the first one. It was the Bank Americard, but it was called Bankmark back then before it became Bank Americard, and then eventually became Visa in the '70s. So
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah,
it
my
was.
first one was a Diners card, and then I got
Was
American
it?
Express,
Yeah.
and then I got a Visa. It was incredible because
Hmm.
back in the 80s and 90s, the numbers that you'd get, like the big deal was to sell it for travel points, right?
Hmm.
And
Yeah.
then within 5 years, they said, that they had issued so many that the airline industry
Hmm.
couldn't possibly fill them, and people were trying to get,
Hmm.
use their points to fly, and they couldn't get tickets. And then
Hmm.
late in late 80s, the airline industry promised to provide at least 20% of their seats for people's points,
Yeah.
and because they thought this would work well, and it did.
Hmm.
Then what was really great is in the early 90s, a lot of the banks that issued them, mine was Royal Bank, the Royal RBC, Royal Bank of Canada. They started sending you out holiday catalogs for points.
Mm.
Oh
Oh
my
yeah.
gosh, it was wonderful. Every time in October, I'd get that catalog, and I'd order like 2 or 3 dozen things because they were all free with my points because I was
Yeah.
buying so much. It was
So
crazy.
there you go. Yeah. Yeah. It's interesting. How we live without it because you if you went on a vacation like my parents, we used to go up to Wisconsin and visit a place up there, and you'd have to take enough cash for the week. I mean, or else write checks. People would take checks, but sometimes back
That's
when
right.
people were honest, and now I remember when I moved to Bozeman in '93, you could write a check at McDonald's.
That's right. Yeah,
Yeah,
that's right.
I mean that's
Well, and then
everybody
of
here wrote
course,
checks.
in the 18 or not 18, late 1980s, the banks provided you with a card,
Hmm.
for debit, debt, to make automatic debit withdrawals.
Hmm.
They were
Hmm.
charging people like 1-2% then to get your own money out and use it. The credit
Hmm.
cards were charging, retailers like 7% when they first started out. Now it's down to like 1% because of
Yeah, I
market
think American Express, I
requirements
think,
just to
is the
survive. But
most. They're about 3%. I know when I went to the DMV
yeah,
yesterday to get my driver's license renewed. So I'm a threat to all motorists for another 4 years. At my age, they only issue them every 4 years rather than 8 years. So I'm a danger to every motorist out there for that length of time. But using my credit card to pay the $40 renewal fee, there's a little extra tacked on because you're using a credit card because state of Montana, they're not going to absorb that cost. So yeah, I've had to pay
yeah,
the.
people complain about the price of the interest rates on credit cards.
Mm-hmm.
It's primarily because the credit card industry charges those who pay for those who don't.
Hmm.
Global credit card fraud
Yeah.
in
Hmm.
2020 was 28.55 billion. 28
Oh yeah.
billion.
Hmm.
So, if
Yeah.
you have a credit card, you're paying all that back. And it,
Hmm.
it was down, from 20, under 28 billion in 2019. So, that's like
Hmm.
6.8 cents per $100 in purchase volumes that you're having to pay back so that the credit cards, are
Hmm.
profitable.
Oh yeah.
And,
Hmm.
and credit card issuers were hit the most for fraud. 65% that of the fraud was
Yeah.
credit card. Now
Well.
ATM fraud was about 35%.
Mhm. Yeah, we got,
So
well, the cards you mentioned have about 25 billion last year, down from 25.53 billion in 2019. So not much of a drop, certainly, but yeah, well, the bank loans are the same way, Shane. If you,
well, that's debit
your
card. Yeah,
yeah, yeah,
sure.
your bank, yeah, your bank cards, or your house payment, there's fraud tacked onto your house loan, to pay for the ones that don't pay. So, the better
Yeah,
credit you have, the better interest rate you're going to get.
that's true. But and of
Mhm.
course, you're in the 21st century. Your credit rating is everything, right? When it comes to
Mhm.
credit cards or
Oh yeah, sure.
bank loans or
Mhm.
anything. So all of a
Yeah.
sudden you're
Mhm.
you're tossed with this reality. It's so funny because when I first
Mhm.
started using my credit cards, I found that if you follow the regiment, when you first get it and you use it and then make your payments for like 6 months, and then
Mhm.
in the seventh month pay them all off, and then every month after that pay it off every month, and then after a year whatever they've offered you as a line of credit, you say to them, well, there's other choices, so unless you're going to increase
Mhm.
my line of credit, I'm going to go elsewhere. So it took me
Mhm.
about 4 or 5 years, and I got my Visa card up to 20,000, a Mastercard to
Mhm.
20, and I got my
Yeah.
American Express up to like uh, almost unlimited. It was ridiculous,
Mhm.
but it's an interesting aspect of life that you can now
Mhm.
buy and consume pretty much anything. I mean, there's not too much that you want or need that's more than $1,000. I mean,
Mhm.
you're talking about big things like appliances or trips,
Yeah,
but
things like that. Yeah. Mhm.
of course, they're more than can get you be more than $1,000. But for the most part, anything else you can buy
Mhm.
is remarkably cheap. And if you go to recycling centers or stores,
Mhm.
man, it's craziness. I probably went. I went last Tuesday with my daughter to one of them. and I spent
Mhm.
$42 and probably bought, if I'd paid retail, well over $500 worth of products. I mean, it
Yeah.
was
Mhm.
ridiculous.
Yeah. Well, as you mentioned, payment history is the most important factor in maintaining a high credit score. It accounts for 35% of your FICO score. That's your
Yeah,
um,
it's
mhm.
fabulous.
Yeah, what they go by. And the other thing too, Shane, your credit that can affect your credit can affect how much you pay for car insurance, how much rent you
Everything,
pay, all of those things. So a good credit rating is very important to have in today's society. But before credit cards,
especially with a mortgage.
oh yeah, yeah, your mortgage rate can be
Yeah,
much lower.
yeah, your mortgage
Yeah,
rate can be. That's right, exactly. You can
significantly
negotiate
lower. Yeah.
with a great credit rating.
Mhm.
You can negotiate a good deal with us.
Mhm.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
savings and loans for sure,
Mhm.
because
Yeah.
you know they are an important aspect of our society. What people
Mhm.
don't
Mhm.
realize is savings and loan, you're
Mhm.
one of the shareholders of it. So
Yeah.
whatever percentage you have on deposit with them, including your mortgage, which could be
Mhm.
substantial. You're basically a shareholder in a savings and loan, unlike banks. They're all
Yeah.
public companies.
True. Yeah. Sorry, I keep bumping my computer. I'm having an earthquake here. Uh, good. Well, I remember Shane when I'd be sitting in my living room learning to play
The
guitar, and
amazing is
my
it's just you and not your. I'm impressed.
that's what? You froze. Okay,
Your
so
earthquake is shaking you and not your. I said the earthquake is shaking you, not the set.
oh yeah, I know, shaking everything. So
Yeah.
the no, I remember sitting in my chair learning to play guitar. My mother would be across the room doing all the bills, sending out all the statements to everybody because in some cases people would establish a line of credit with our business, and so every month she'd be sitting there, handwriting the bills and putting them in envelopes and licking the stamps and all that to send them out to folks. But and the other thing too, when you, um, I don't know if many people get credit cards in the mail or credit card bills in the mail. They give you the option of card or paperless bills. So I don't get any credit card bills. They just, it's all online. So, but it used to be they would fill your bill with all kinds of offers, little coupons for stuff to buy.
Mhm.
And everybody got different coupons depending on their credit rating, their, the amount they could spend, and all of the other criteria. So, yeah, there used to be some pretty interesting things come with the credit card bills when I used to get them. And the other thing too, Shane, if you remember back during the Reagan years, credit card interest was deductible back then. You could deduct your
Initially,
credit
that's
card
right.
interest. Yeah, yeah,
Absolutely.
you could.
The other
Yeah,
two
you
things
could deduct that interest.
the other two things that are so incredible and what's advanced this industry to a multi-billion-dollar industry around the world. There's well over a billion cards issued, and that's because
Hmm.
you don't just get a personal credit card. You can issue a supplementary credit card to your wife or your
Hmm.
kids. You can get more than one credit. You can have Mastercard, Visa, American Express. So people have
Oh,
two,
yeah.
three, four, five credit cards. I used to have
Hmm.
a little leather folders about this wide and this high, to carry business
Hmm.
cards, and I had one
Yeah.
just for credit cards because then hotels started
Hmm.
issuing them. Hertz
Hmm.
issued them. I mean, every
Yeah.
industry started issuing a card that you could use with their business. But
Hmm.
American Express jumped on all of them in the late 80s when they gave you a detailed uh, report, particularly for your business credit card,
Yeah.
for your tax returns at the end of the year. So
Hmm.
they basically provided you an audit. I'm a paper guy, old school, so I've always gotten paper. I don't believe in the internet. Yeah, it can go down at any time, and then you're screwed. You don't have access to anything, and you have no records. So yeah, no, I still get bank records, still get credit card statements,
Hmm.
gas state. I have it all papered, baby. I'm old school.
Yeah. What are the Shane's in Canada? For those of you who don't know, what kind of audits do you have in Canada anyway? You have a? I know you've got a comparable IRS in Canada. The mounted police come riding up on the horses and take you away.
Yeah, Canada Revenue back in 87, 86, no, 85, I got audited for the first time, had a fabulous accountant. He followed their guidelines. They wanted me to
Mm-hmm.
pay like $27,000 in taxes. And literally over 3 years, and four different investigators, two of which were women who got pregnant because of the delays they created under their
Yeah.
standards for us to meet. They basically settled with for $2,500. So
Yeah.
yeah, I never got audited again after that. Usually in Canada, if you get audited and don't fight it and then lose, they'll continue auditing you. But
Mhm.
what I found is
Yeah.
anybody I referred my accountant to that got audited and he fought it and they didn't, they settled for some minuscule amount, never got audited again. So it,
Yeah.
it really has a lot to do with your accountant.
Well, it does. Yeah, I have a CPA do mine, and I was audited the first 3 of the first 5 years I was here, Shane, in Montana when I moved here because I had a home based
I can
business.
believe that.
And
I'd
back
audit it. I
then,
would audit you.
yeah, I
Yeah,
know.
yeah. I
I,
would
I
audit
should
you.
be. Yeah, I. That's why I don't release my tax returns when I go on YouTube. That you don't need to know where who's paying me off or who I'm paying off. So yeah, that works pretty good. So
That's right.
yeah. The other
And you don't
thing,
want people to find
yeah,
out you have more money. You don't wait,
no, I
wait.
don't
You don't
want
want people to find out you have more money than no, but you don't want people to find out you have more money than they could spend in a lifetime. So yeah,
Well, that's
you got
true.
to
Yeah,
keep it
yeah.
quiet.
Well, yeah, you got to keep that quiet. Yeah, in 2021,
Yeah,
Chase recorded the highest total number of cardholders, 149 million, and that's half the nation, Shane, almost, or a little less than
I
half the
know.
nation. So yeah, and boy, Christmas time, all of that stuff every year. They set a Black Friday record or a Cyber Monday record or
Mhm.
whatever, and credit cards are the reason why because people, um, you know, you open that credit card and it says you have this much available credit. Oh, well, I'm going to bury that for Christmas. So, and
That's
and then
right.
you spend the next 10 years.
Well, the staggering thing is that you mentioned that
You spend the next 10 years paying off that tie.
the staggering thing is you mentioned at the beginning. Please.
What?
When we started out today, you mentioned that the U.S. credit card debt, personal credit card or total credit card debt is 1.1 trillion, and that's down from 1.7 trillion 2 years ago. So I mean, Americans have been very responsible about paying off the credit card. I mean,
Hmm.
that's
Yeah.
30% of what it was
Oh
2
yeah.
years ago.
Yeah. Well, the other thing too, one thing they started doing, I think it was back in 2009, Shane, when they changed the credit card laws here in the United States. That now they have to print on the statement how long it will take you if you pay the minimum to pay off the card, so that people can get an idea that if you pay the minimum, your card will be paid off in 2081. So that was kind of helpful to
Yeah,
people to put in perspective, how long it takes if
sure.
you just pay the minimum. Yeah.
But the reality is the government is so inefficient and stupid. They didn't require them to tell you how much interest you would pay to pay it off. And that's the whole reality. It's like
Mm-hmm.
your mortgage. You make 11 payments to pay your interest, and one payment a year goes towards the principal of your home,
Hmm.
which is why
Yeah.
it takes you 30 years to pay it off.
Well, the banks
And
got to get
that's
their money
why.
first. Yeah.
Well, that's right.
The
But
money.
a credit
Yeah.
card today in the 21st century is for emergencies, or if you're going to
Hmm.
travel. Otherwise, you really you should try to stay away from it. It's
Yeah.
not a good thing, especially for people that have managed lifestyles like the retired
Hmm.
people, like me and you. Um,
Sure. Yeah.
I just use my debit card. So
Yeah.
you know, I,
Well, that's the thing. You don't have to carry around mounds of cash. Your debit card is the same thing. You're spending what's in your bank account. Not you're not doing credit. So yeah, the debit card, that was a
Yeah,
real
and
that
I
was a
have a
real
credit,
benefit. Yeah, the
and
debit
at
card
my
was a real
age, I have
benefit
a
to
credit
everybody.
card. Yeah, that's right. I have a credit limit on my credit card now at my age. So if I have to travel somewhere quickly because of something saddened,
Hmm.
like someone passed away, or if I want to
Yeah.
go on a holiday, I can walk
Hmm.
in, get the ticket. I mean, with all the
Sure.
rules and guidelines to travel still. I mean, yeah, sure, the borders are open,
Hmm.
but if you
Yeah.
buy a ticket, you have to have a
Hmm.
COVID. You still have to have a COVID test 2 days before you get on the plane, and then you have to have a COVID test, when you come back, and then 10 days later another.
Sure.
I mean, it's so all these
Yeah.
things become really,
Yeah.
hard to make a decision unless it's something you have to do.
Yeah. I don't think we have COVID tests to get on planes here, but anyway, maybe that's a maybe that's a Canada thing. Must be.
It is.
Yeah.
They want to be in control. They always want to be in control.
Yeah. All right. Final thoughts, Shane, before
The other
we
thing about
bail
credit
out of
cards,
here.
yeah, the
Mhm.
other thing about credit cards is remember your personal privacy is exposed completely on credit cards. It's not a necessity in China because everything is done by cell phone. They have no, as we've discussed, they have no cash in China anymore. It's all bank credit. So the Chinese government,
Mhm.
it knows exactly how much money you have, how much you make, how much you spend, where you spend it,
Mhm.
when you spend it. I mean, everything about your private life is exposed. So regrettably, credit cards aren't any different because they sell your information to every retailer they can, which is why
Yep.
you get a lot of
Mhm.
advertising from retailers and other the industries that are out there,
Mhm.
and it's a hard reality.
Amen. Amen to that. Well, I want to remind you
Mhm.
we're on the radio every Saturday, 8 to 11 Mountain Time.
Mhm.
Listen live at kmmsam.com. Write it down, learn it, live it, love it. Click listen now. You don't have to join anything, no signups, no email. All you do is click kmmsam.com and then click on listen now, and you're listening, baby. You are listening. It's that simple. So there's really nothing to it. And hey, don't forget, Shane and I both write on medium.com. There's a link in the description below to where you can go and read our fabulous articles that we write on all kinds of different topics and things like that. Also, you want to make sure you subscribe to us, hit that subscribe button, ring the notification bell. You'll always be notified of when we're on, no matter what time zone you're in. And if you'd like to support the show monetarily, we would appreciate that very much. There's a link in the description below for you to generously contribute to the show. And there are some great things Shane and I will do for you. They're all listed at the website for that. And if you'd like to make videos like this yourself, we use StreamYard. There's a free link to the description on how to use that below as well. So let's see, Shane, we got a couple comments here we can hop in here real quick with. Let's see. Bruce says, lines of credit from store bank bar. We always had lines of credit. Just the big boys wanted in on the action and created the plastic after J.C. Penney way back in the 50s. And Linda says, great show. Thank you so much. Thanks, Linda, for being here. We appreciate that very much as well. So, all right, Shane, I think that's going to wrap it up for us. So we will see everybody next Tuesday at 10 o'clock, and we will hear you, or you'll hear us on the radio, I guess I should say, on Saturday, kmmsam.com, 8 to
That's
11.
right.
We will see you then. All right. Thanks for watching. Thanks, Shane, for being here. Thanks for all the information. And we will see you next Tuesday, and we will hear you this Saturday.